Oh my God, is that who I think it is?
Your worst nightmare.
Oh, it's true.
Oh.
It's kidding.
Wait, did that sound
Welcome.
like I was genuinely hurt? Because it kind of felt like it was.
Oh, that's cute that you think I care about your feelings. No.
Ah.
And then this just evolves into us for an hour just fucking riffing on each other and just saying the worst, most awful things that you can say to a human being.
Okay, so the organizer of the Pokemon charity event that we were just doing for this time, that was my brainchild originally, but I passed the reins on to Angel Be Playing on Twitch, is streaming as we're recording this.
Yeah.
And his incentive is $5 for the battle, like it was for everybody else, or $10 for a really bad Pokemon drawing on Microsoft Paint. And he was like, look at who wouldn't want to donate $10. And he showed me, he's like, this is art. And it was so bad. And I wrote, at least you're good at battling. And everybody took that as a means to let's just shit on Angel. And like everybody
Oh,
went in. And I was like, okay. I said, I said mine as a joke because I also donated. So if you would like to insult Angel, you're going to have to donate $10. And
that's
that's how
funny.
you help a charity stream, right? Something like that.
That's so silly. Well, last week I was doing the mukbang, and this week you're
It's true.
giving us a mukbang during
Baby,
this episode.
I have grilled chicken, some garlic mashed potatoes, and asparagus. I'm living life, baby. I'm living
Hell yeah,
life
that
hard.
sounds delicious. But everyone, this is Hot Mess Moments. Here, wait for it.
Oh, so hot. Such a mess. Such a moment.
You can't make it a thing if you're not going to do it every time, Bev.
I'm sorry. I was really invested in that piece of chicken I just ate.
Hello. So stupid. Hello, everyone. My name is Dylan Zahner, also known as 8-Bit Dylan Online. Lost is my favorite show of all time, but I've never seen The Nanny.
And I'm hungry. No, I'm Beth Dixon, also known as Augusta Wendell Levin, everywhere online, including my Twitch channel. My favorite show of all time is The Nanny, but I've never seen Lost before. So I am very excited that I was able to show Dylan this episode of The Nanny, episode or of Lost. Jeez,
We're recording for a lot.
I know we are. And I, in my head, was like, because I just texted Kirsten like literally 3 minutes before we went live to confirm everything for Sunday. And I was like, wait, we haven't watched it yet. No, I'm excited to talk about Lost because that was an episode last night.
Yeah, it was a very interesting one, and one that we have a lot to talk about when it comes to how TV shows cover mental health. But before we get into that, how was your week since the last time we talked?
Okay, girl, we have a moment here.
Uh-oh, a hot mess one.
A hot mess one for sure. So I'm having a good week, but I needed to go and drop off kitchen supplies that I had ordered for my students in their dorm because we have never had offered that before. Like they always had to bring their own. My program has a lot of international students. It's really hard for them to, first of all, have a budget to like buy new things or bring it or whatever. It's not the same as like somebody whose family might live in the Northeast and could like drive things in or whatever, ship it easily. So I basically convinced the university to let me go on a very cheap shopping spree to get basic necessities. So all of them came. And by the way, Target, you need to step your pussy up a little bit when you come into this packaging because my God, the box was barely taped together.
Oh no.
And it had all these things in it. And I was like, you would have been better just sending me smaller boxes rather than what I appreciate the trying to cut down on
Yeah.
like all this stuff, but at least fill the box if it's going to be giant so that
Yeah.
everything's not sloshing around inside. So anyway, it was a moment and I was like, there's no way I can take this on the subway. So I had to take a cab to go up to the to 92nd Street. I give it all the stuff to the students, but the entire cab ride there, so about a 40-minute cab ride, was my cab driver listening to Christian rock music
Oh my
He was super
god.
quiet. He was super nice. Really was helpful, whatever. But after every song, they're like, you know what you should do today? You should start the K Love, which is the station, the K Love 30-day challenge, which is don't listen to any other music besides K Love. And let me know, are you doing that? Are you going to start the challenge? Tell me how it's going. I think you're really going to find so much more love and respect for yourself. And I'm just sitting here like, this is indoctrination.
That's
This is,
fucking weird.
isn't that like, I was just like, oh my God, I hate this. I hate this so much.
Okay.
So then on the way home, I took the train because like I'm not about to drop another $45,
Yeah.
$50 to go back down to Brooklyn. I take the train home and very on the opposite end of the spectrum, I have 3 different kinds of music playing from people who don't know how to put headphones in. And so it's just all their different, like, you've got people, one person who's like every other word is just like horrible shit happening and whatever. And then in the corner of the train was a mentally disturbed person, unfortunately, who was jacking off. So I had
Oh, love that.
such a lovely experience on both ends of the spectrum. So
I'm
yeah,
here for it.
welcome to
Yes.
New York. Mm,
Concrete or something where dreams are made of.
Concrete jungle where dreams are made of. Some guy will be jerking it on the subway. The best of that
um
was just I'm cutting chicken while I sing this, like no problem.
that's so stupid. I don't really have any updates. It's been
And
pretty chill.
we need St.
Um
Louis to get a subway system just so you can have some stories, you know?
Honestly, that would be a mess. Oh,
It'd
I
be
was supposed to go
awful.
to the DMV today.
Why?
Drove, 'cause I need to get my license renewed,
Mm,
and I was so shocked. I was prepared for pre-COVID DMV, which
yeah.
is like, you're in there for a long ass time. You got
Is that the case in like the Midwest too?
Oh my god, in Omaha, where I used to live, you would have to at least get prepared for an hour and a half if
Mhm.
you're gonna go to the DMV, because you're gonna be waiting in line for a long ass time. Because it's a lot of people who don't have everything prepared for what they
Yep.
wanna do. It's nothing to do with the workforce. It's
No,
just the workforce is so fucking drained from having to explain the most simple of things to, like,
the
people that just don't
dumbasses.
get it. And so it was really funny. I went to the DMV today and I didn't bring like the proper forms of address. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll just bring
Time
this up.
out. Did you just complain about people not knowing the
No, I
forms?
didn't open up it.
And then you
The
didn't
issue was I didn't open up the letters. So I thought that they were the ones that were on the approved list. But one of them was like a month off from the 90 days because
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't open it. I thought it was like the most recent one. And then the other one I thought was a pay stub, ended up being an advertisement and it wasn't actually a pay stub. And I was like, God damn it. Because it like had like the
The
corners you rip
lines and
off.
everything? Yeah.
Yes. And so I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll just use this. So I could tell that this DMV is used to like talking at it like the most basic vernacular.
Mhm.
So I go in, she's like, all right, instantly go up to the front desk. Didn't even have to check in or do anything. And she's like, all right, I'm gonna need your birth
Oh god.
certificate or passport. And it's like literally right there. So I'm like, okay. I slide it in. She can see I have everything.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, now that we've done that, I'm gonna need your social security card. And I'm like, "O- okay, here you go. It's right there. I was gonna like slide her everything.
Yeah.
She insisted on it one at a time. All right, and now
Oh god.
the first form of address. And I was like, okay. I just slid her both of them. I was like, I'm not
The
doing
way
this.
this is so opposite of going to the DMV, first of all, in New York State, but secondly, in New York City, they'd be like, "You don't fucking have the form. Get the fuck out of here!"
Get
Like
the
that.
fuck out! You
Why
fucking
haven't you
pig!
already given me all your shit? Is what they'd be yelling at you as you walk up to the counter. So
Yeah, and then if you have anything wrong, they have that divider. They literally stand on top of the desk and throw it over the divider at your face.
hell
Like,
yeah.
you fucking animal! I'm gonna
That's
feed
why
you like a
everyone in
fucking
New York
fish!
City has a fucking like kink.
Because they all go to the DMV. Anyway, Yeah, it was not the most fun of DMV experiences, only because I'm stupid and didn't bring the right I thought I was gonna get in and out like that. So I got to get like the proper forms and I can get my ID. But speaking of uncomfortable situations,
Ooh, girl.
let's talk about this episode of
There's a lot
Lost.
of, I think, really good things that we can talk about. And it's not just about mental health.
Yeah.
Also, the way in which we talk about fat people and people who are
Mhm.
obese and how they talk about themselves as well. Because I I I really feel this in my bones and in my flab that I think that people with bigger bodies are like the last frontier of like what is socially acceptable to be fucking awful towards in a discriminatory way, and these different kinds of things. And so I can't wait to discuss how Lost handled this episode when it came to Hurley's
Back
weight,
in 2006.
whew, as well as mental health.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. This is Lost season 2 episode 18, Dave. Okay, so Dave, what were your thoughts, feelings, theories, and rating for this episode?
So I just realized I put my food on top of my notes. So good job, Beth. Because this time I did take a few notes. I really like this episode. I'm gonna rate it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Um I think there were legitimate things. So after we finished the episode last night, we did have a very brief discussion, the two of us and your husband, and we were talking about the show and the depiction of, Hurley as a fat person and that kind of thing. And I think that your husband,
He didn't
Deli
care. He
brought up,
didn't. Yeah,
he
yeah,
didn't
he
really
didn't.
like it, and I
Mhm.
completely understand that. And I think a lot of it was more because of the way that they always have his character eating and like binge eating and these kind of things that feeds into the stereotype of what it means to be a bigger person, right? Um, but I, as someone who has gained 50 pounds in the last 2 years, as somebody who is technically obese, I've really noticed a difference on how things in our society as a country that already has things built bigger and all these different kinds of things is still so not adaptable for bigger people. And and yet we're still seeing the effects of that. So you take a show like this that was filmed in 2006, excuse me, and we're in 2022, and I can identify so well with Hurley's character in this. I really think they ended up doing a good job, but I agree with your husband that moving forward, if they keep this up, I think it does more harm than good. Like if it's just this episode that they really explain binge eating and why and how it's tied to mental illness and all those different kinds of things, I think that's great. Specifically, just to kind of bring the point home, in a global pandemic where people have been surviving to survive, like literally have just been staying home, they're not as
Yeah.
active, depression is high, your mental health issues are skyrocketed right now, and more than ever people are realizing how their mental health affects their physical health and vice versa. I think there's a certain level of empathy and compassion and recognition that we have now that maybe we wouldn't have had in 2006 or even 5 years ago or whatever. So I do think that potentially the context with which I'm watching this show, I watched it was like, "Oh my god, this is really powerful. This is really speaking to me."
Oh yeah. I felt the same way. I had mentioned in our last like review of the whole truth in lockdown, I was worried about how this was going to come across in a 2022
Yeah.
lens, because I truly don't remember much of this episode. The main takeaway that I get from it is Libby and Hurley, um, like having this intimate kiss. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They have this kiss in the episode, and that's kind of like what I remember it for. And
Mhm.
so rewatching it for basically the second time, I was really impacted by this because it felt like you said, it resonated so well with like the bigger conversations that are happening now in like
Yeah.
2022. I can say this is the last time they mention Hurley's binge eating, his mental health. I mean, they refer back to his mental health issues, but
Sure.
it is not the focus of
And
the
it's
plot. And this is like what I would consider after watching it the end of the survival part of Lost, and we're getting into now the sole character focused
mhm.
part of Lost. So from here on out, you will not hear any mentions of like we need to ration our food or we need to like build a
Build a shelter.
campfire,
Yeah.
build a shelter. There's going to be none of that
Mhm.
because we're past that point in the show. The show is no longer about surviving on an island. It's about surviving the circumstances that are now on the island.
And I think that that's the right move of the direction to go. I haven't had a question as to whether I mean, I've had questions because the writing isn't consistent. Not it's like the
Yeah.
writing is the reason why I've had to question things
Yeah.
rather than because every once in a while this season has felt like the writers go, "Oh, wait, we should probably explain why they have food." Or like we should probably explain why nobody's in the hatch or something like that. Or
Yeah.
like I bring it up because I'm like, what the hell are they doing? You know, but we are clearly seeing like even like Hurley's camp like season 1 was about a group that crashed on the island. Season 2 is like you're just a part of the island now. Like I don't even think
Yeah.
of them as like plane crash survivors anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and
So
like and there's like definite groundwork that they have laid down in season 2 to kind of give themselves wiggle room. So
good,
when it
yeah.
comes to guns, they have now an armory that was full of guns. So now you can't be like, "Wait, there was only like 5 pistols. Like where are all these other like they had an armory full of guns." So like
Right.
they do have someone and this is a fun fact. They did have someone on set to track guns throughout the show to make
Mhm.
sure like bullets that there was enough bullets that were being used that were like accurate and that like there wasn't a new gun that ever showed up that didn't make any sense. They had a gun expert on set, but as a viewer, you're not meant to think about that anymore. We
Did
now
that
have
gun expert ever talk to them about not putting a fucking pistol down their pants to shoot off their balls?
You know what? I hope they did. And then we have Sun's Garden, so we can
Mhm.
like talk about like less medicine based approaches to being healed. There's now like plants and aloe and there's like a garden for this stuff now. We don't have to think about that anymore.
I
Um
do like that the one aspect though of like this things that we still need from excuse me from outside of the island is the
yeah.
idea of medication though because we
Yeah.
see it heavily in this episode and we've seen that is like the one thread that we're seeing is that
And
Jack
that
is
still kind of remains.
limited in what
Yeah.
he can do. He also like I'm just going to put it out there. If you were Jack, wouldn't you be trying to like
Hooper.
teach other people some of this stuff? Very
Yeah.
basic
In
so
case
that
you
like
die or like something happens to you and you need someone to take care of you, like
yeah, it's just a
yeah,
moment. It's a
I feel
moment.
like I feel like it doesn't happen, but I would love to see Sun kind of take on that role.
I
I
mean,
could see Sun being
basically
that
kept
person.
him in check when, you know, Boone was dying. I was gonna say Booney.
Little Boonie hole died. His little
When his
Boonie hole's
booty hole
dead. His little Boonie
away.
hole's dead. um,
Oh, man.
no, but there was like so much for us to talk about in this episode, and I think it was really well done. I
Me
thought
too.
that um if you would have given me a list to make of like my top 5 favorite episodes of season 2, this probably breaks that list. And
I really liked it.
I would not have it probably wouldn't have even been in my top 10 originally when I'm thinking back to season 2. But like
Mhm.
I think it is so impacted by like what we've been through in this
Yeah,
pandemic that I
yeah.
was just like, damn, am I actually tearing up at this episode? Like,
Oh,
holy
I
shit.
did.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things that spoke to me. So why don't we start off by talking about Hurley's storyline because he's the main
Yeah.
character, and then we can talk about the little things like you know with the questioning of I'm just going to call him Henry Gale or not Henry Gale. Maybe I'll call him not Henry Gale,
Yeah.
um, and all those different kinds of things. So Hurley's storyline, we have him in the flashbacks. We see that he is a patient or was a patient at the
Santa
Santa
Rosa.
Rose, Santa
Yes.
Rosa psychiatric facility. And from the beginning, and the reason why we get these flashbacks is because he and Libby kind of work together in the very beginning, where he's like, I'm really sick and basically I can't stop eating. And so she's like, so get rid of it, get rid of the food. And like, as someone who uses food as a reward and punishment system for myself, where I punish myself thinking it's a reward, and then I reward myself and it's like a form of punishment because it's like I'm afraid of like being successful or something deep down. I
Yeah.
totally felt that. And then she's like, "Why don't you get rid of it?" And in my head, I was like, "Well, yeah, that works on an island. When I'm like, I'm gonna get
Yeah.
rid of this so I don't have it." And then I'm like, "Or I could
I could just
order it
eat it.
in." You
Oh,
know,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Let me just
my
eat it then. Yeah.
that's exactly what happens though. Is I'll say like, I need to get rid of this, but it's a waste to just like throw it out. So I have to eat it first, and
Yeah.
then I'll be good for like
I'm the
3
same way, I
days. And
feel
then
that.
I'm like, okay, so when am I getting more cookies? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it's that to have the circumstance that his character is on, saying like, okay, yeah, like I'm finally at a place potentially physically and mentally where maybe I can get rid of this. And the moment he makes that decision and they see all the new food that has arrived,
Yeah.
all of a sudden Dave appears. And Dave, first of all, is freaky on
He's
the
meant to be
island.
weird. He's meant to be
He's
fucking, like, like, make you feel uncomfortable.
Oh, he really did. On the island, he did. In the psychiatric ward, he didn't really like make me feel uncomfortable, but on the island, it's because I really think they gave him like black contacts or something.
Yeah.
They really kind of made his eyes look way darker and he's just kind of staring. And I'm
And
like, "Ugh."
it's also, like, the way that the Dave that we see on the island is different than the Dave that we see in the flashbacks, because the
Yeah.
Dave on the island is Hurley's, like, psyche, angry at himself for
Mhm.
shutting off these thoughts while he
Mhm.
was on this island. And so it's like his
Yeah.
psyche's punishing him now. It's like,
Exactly.
you're a fucking idiot for shutting this part of your brain off. Like, this is who you really are. And, like,
It's and so what
yeah.
I think is the fact that he has this delusion. We never get a diagnosis for him.
Nope.
I think a lot of people would jump to something like schizophrenia, but like
Yeah, I think it's
it's
they purposely did not wanna
and
give him a
I'm happy
diagnosis.
that they don't, because I
Yeah.
think actually there's pop culture and TV shows and movies have actually really ruined the diagnosis of schizophrenia. But I think using the word delusional is acceptable here because this is a delusion. This is a part of his mind that he believes to be true that nobody else can see or hear, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so Dave shows up, and I kind of called from the beginning. I was like, well, I
They
think Dave has got to be like a delusion, and maybe the reason why he's in the psychiatric ward. And so when people are saying like he's not real, he doesn't really want you to change, does he? I was like, that was the first thing that kind of like solidified in my
yeah.
mind. I was like, all right, this is clearly the manifestation of of everything that's holding him back from moving forward.
Yeah.
And it ended up being correct. But then I got thinking about it and I was like, I wonder if Kate's horse and Jack's dad and all these different kinds of things, not that they're
Yeah.
delusions, but play a role in the same way that like my theory has been, right?
Yeah.
This island is meant to test you to do the changes that you weren't able to change otherwise.
Yeah.
And the horse allowed Kate to run away when she really needs to face things.
Yeah.
Jack's dad was constantly, harping on him and many different ways, but he never really faced him in the way that he needed to, and that affected how he ran his life and his practice and all that kind of stuff. And so I just really think that there's something to be said about, even though this one is clearly a delusion that came from before and he's seeing it again, I think there's something to be said about how this island also makes you face those things
Yeah,
again.
it's like they're different, but they serve the same purpose. It's like
Mhm.
we know that like Kate and Jack's father are like actual real things
Correct.
that are on the island, like physical manifestations of stuff. But Dave is clearly not. But they all serve the same purpose at the end of the day of like
Mhm.
what is happening here. And I think that what I love about this episode is it kind of pokes fun at the mythos of Lost in
Mhm.
the sense of Dave telling Hurley, this is all in your brain, that nothing here is real, which was a huge theory back then. And that's why
I
they kind of poke at this. It's like, well, maybe there's some truth to what Dave is saying, because this is what Hurley is thinking. Because
Mhm.
Hurley mentioned earlier when he was on that beach, where he's like, there's dinosaurs, or who knows what time we're in. Like Hurley's clearly got
Right.
these thoughts in his head about like maybe this they're like he knows something's weird about this island. And
Right.
so
And it's
he's
weird
thinking
because
these
nobody
thoughts.
ever talks about it. So for someone who needs the outlet of talking to people about these kind of things and consistently is feeling left out, it
Yeah.
makes sense that when you're facing this when you're facing Dave and Dave's telling you everything that you're probably doubting about your reality, because being told Dave's not real, and that would have been reality blowing for somebody.
Yeah.
So then to
But
go
since
back and go,
Hurley's like, "What?"
"What?"
But this is like his own thoughts. He's like, "Oh yeah."
Right. And it kind of makes me wonder too, in the way like we are not told this, but it makes me wonder and theorize if Hurley was talking for both sides of things, similar to like how
Oh, I see what
uh
you're saying.
you know what I mean? Like what's his face? Does Two-Face do that in the Batman where he'll kind of go blah blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah,
Yeah, he
blah
like
and he go
talks to
back and
himself.
he talks to
Yeah.
himself, and it's like Gollum talking to himself as both
Yeah.
Smeagol and Gollum. And I think that it makes you wonder if he's like actually having both of those conversations. So is the doctor hearing everything about like, don't take that, man, and blah 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 blah. And then he's like, okay, I gotta kind of step in here and take the photo and use that for like a reference so that I
Yeah.
can help him. Right. Um, and then when he's on the cliff, is he really finally being able to speak out loud the things that he's potentially internalizing and trying to like, it's his brain fighting against itself. And I know
Yeah.
maybe not to this level, but I can empathize with that. I
Oh
can't tell
yeah.
you how often, as somebody with depression and anxiety, like I can warp things in my mind for the worse at a drop of a hat, and I can
Yeah.
spiral really quickly. And thankfully, I have a support system with friends and family that allow me to get out of that. But I watched this and was like, if I were in their situation, I would absolutely be having this exact thought that he is. The fact that nobody is talking about how
Yeah.
weird the island is,
Well,
only like,
they probably are, because we know that they have conversations about the polar bear and the
right.
hatch and stuff like that. But
Then they
these are
kind of like
probably
move on. I'd be
yeah, yeah,
focusing on that.
yeah. Like that would be my sole purpose on
I'd
this
be like,
island.
yeah, hatch, 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 whatever. They're fucking polar bears on this island, people. Are we all
That we have to like watch
he
out
was
for
gored by a
consistently.
boar day 2 and was fine by day 4. Like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah.
Like, I would be talking that kind of shit. And they would very quickly be like, Beth, why don't you go live in the caves?
Exactly. So I think it is like super interesting. And he brings up some good points where
Yeah.
he's like 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. Isn't it weird that this number keeps showing up everywhere? Like, isn't that like, and that's something
Mhm.
clearly Hurley's been thinking about, where it's like, it really does show up everywhere in my life. That is so strange. Like,
But
how does that
also,
happen? This
it's
reality
not
can't be
just
real.
him. How many people have told him subliminally or directly, you're only seeing those numbers because you choose to see them,
Yeah,
right?
which could be true. It
Which
could be
could be
true.
true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the fact that you're the one who's manifesting it, it's not actually that like you're the one who's saying the numbers are bad or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Nobody has listened to him, which of course is going to make his brain question that and then go, well, how can I reel this back in? You know?
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit of the fat phobia and the fat conversation here,
Yeah.
because that factors a huge part into Hurley's, at least this part of like where we're at right now in his story, of what Hurley is going through. And it's it's interesting. I had brought this up when my husband, we had the post episode conversation. I brought this up in our conversation about the reason why they always show Hurley eating, and it's because they had to set this groundwork for his eating disorder that he has. And I
Hmm.
and I had brought up, I was like, I feel like it would be weirder if they had this episode drop and had nothing leading up to it. And it's like, oh, look, we have this fat character that is now he binge eats. Isn't that crazy? Without like showing the foundation of that behavior several episodes back. Like if you go
Yeah.
back and you watch several episodes in season 2, you will see he is always eating. He is always consuming something
Hmm.
because it's making the viewer recognize maybe there's something more here than just he's a
And they
obese
didn't
character
really
that
do that in season 1. It wasn't
no, they
until they
didn't.
found access to excess food
Yep.
that he was put in charge of it. And so it's like you kind of, when you watch this episode, realize how much was just not in his favor for this.
Yeah.
Um, I can't tell you how many times I've been on the right track for success and I feel like I'm finally getting where I should be with like my health and my wellness. And then it's like the crate of all the food shows up again, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Like,
oh,
fuck.
I'm like doing really well. This is great. I feel like I've done 21 days. I'm almost at a point where it's a part of routine psychologically. It's the holidays. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so, like,
Yeah.
so I always try to get healthy, like, well, consistently, always. But it's like every time I always get to a point where I'm feeling good, it's always right after Halloween and then right before Thanksgiving, where I tell myself, your goal is so that when you get to Thanksgiving, you're not overeating, but you're still enjoying the holiday. And that's going to set you up because if you can do that for Thanksgiving, the holiday season's going to be fine. And then that doesn't happen. And
Yeah.
it's so stupid. But I do want to point out one thing as well. I love that they created this binge eating disorder for a bigger person
Mhm.
because we are conditioned to believe eating disorders are only for skinny people
Yes.
who aren't eating, like anorexia or bulimia and throwing it up, or whatever the case might be, or are binge eating and then throwing up. And there's so many different things. And I also want to preface this by saying not every fat or obese person or whatever has an eating disorder. Number
Yeah,
one, just
for
like not
sure.
every thin person has an eating disorder. Not every fat person can control what's going on in their body.
Yeah.
Not every fat person is completely unhealthy.
Yeah, that's what
And
Libby kinda brings up too.
absolutely,
She's like, "It's just your metabolism, like,
your
you have no
metabolism
control
is
over
slow.
this." Yeah.
And here's the thing, we're learning more and more and more, right? I had a father a gastric bypass surgery when I was 21. And
Yeah.
so for all of my formative years, I had a father who was like 380 pounds or something like that. And then he had gastric bypass surgery. It was successful and he's never going to be a thin guy, but he dropped a whole person off of him in terms of
That's
like weight,
crazy.
right? Which is like crazy to think about. I have in my formative years, I was really thin. I was really muscular. I was really fit. And so, something that I've learned with my dietitian is that because I had that base when I was developing and growing, my muscles still have muscle memory, which is why I still feel like, oh, yeah, I could easily throw me into a softball game, throw me into a pool, and I'll be fine. Or I can do the little
Yeah.
things that my
I
body
can
is.
fucking fight a human being.
Yeah. I mean, I think that every day. Oh, no, that's I want to fight a human being. That's my thing.
That's
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. I want
But
to fight that man who was masturbating on the subway.
oh, I did not wanna fight him. I just wanted to get off the train and go, uh, which I did. I got off the train that got onto the next car.
He got off on the train too.
I want it known too that I got on this train after seeing and hanging out for like an hour or two with Tyler today. So
Oh, wow.
Tyler didn't even get to hear this. He's gonna hear it in the podcast. You're welcome.
Love it.
But the whole reason why I bring this stuff up is because I really like that they are combining um a health issue and a health disorder with binge eating in addition to a mental health disorder because
Yeah,
your
they're
mental health
very hand
does
in hand.
impact everything. Your
Yeah, for
physical
sure.
health impacts your mental health. Um and so I think that there's just so much here to unpack as somebody who I can identify to some extent with everything that he's going through and being tested with. And then throw the fact that he's on a fucking creepy ass island,
Exactly.
you know,
Where
and it's
weird
just like
shit's happening all
shit.
the time. Okay, so now I wanna kinda shift the conversation about Libby and Hurley.
Yes.
So they have this is another thing that they have been hinting at since Libby has joined the main survivor group. Every time we've seen Libby, she's typically with Hurley or
Yeah.
she's doing something with Hurley. So they've kind of like set the groundwork of, maybe there is something here. Maybe Libby has some sort of attachment to Hurley here.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
So we see at the very end of the episode that Libby was in the psychiatric ward with Hurley, and
Ooh,
I called that, by the way.
yeah, I could tell in your face. You were like, mm-hmm.
But let us remember, I wasn't 100% right. And yes, I admitted that on this fucking podcast or whatever. I thought that she was working at the facility
Yes,
because she's a
yes.
patient.
I
But I also kind of got those feelings a few episodes ago that maybe she wasn't all there. I don't think I
You
ever
also mentioned
expressed.
she might not be a therapist. You
I
were
did say
like
that.
something's up here, which she still could be a
She could, yeah,
therapist.
she this could have been the reason why she decided to become a therapist.
Yeah,
What I think happened was she said that she wanted to be a doctor. I think that she suffered some kind of breakdown in medical school, and like that's what put her in this facility. And
yeah.
I honestly think because you see her from a distance, you're not seeing her with Hurley.
I should mention also, this is the first episode where it ends on a flashback of another person besides the main centric. So,
Yeah,
it doesn't happen often, but they do sometimes do this. So it starts off as a Hurley centric episode and it ends with one flashback from Libby, which I
that's
think
really
is
I
really
really
cool.
did think that was cool.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that this is something like I think Libby is a stalker of Hurley
Ooh, okay, okay.
because how would they have been on the same plane? And it's clear that she's watching him. I don't know if she's a stalker for good or bad reasons. My assumption
Yeah.
it's I say that as if stalking's ever really good. Um,
A good kind of stalking,
but I mean, like if she like loves him or likes him, or if it's because she's like obsessed in a negative way with him, like she doesn't like him and she's trying to mess with him. And there's like a menacing portion of it. And I
Yeah.
actually have a theory.
Oh, what's the theory?
I actually don't think that it's a good thing. I think that she's toying with him. And here's the reason
Ooh,
why. I
okay.
think her family members or friends died in the accident that Hurley holds himself responsible for, and that she
Okay.
was driven crazy by it to a certain extent. And I hate using that word. I really shouldn't use the word crazy. That's insensitive.
She was driven to
To to an
not
unhealthy
sane
mental state.
levels.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, she was not in a good mental state that drove her to the psychiatric ward where, I think that was a coincidence, and then because the way she's looking at Hurley at the end is not one of, like,
It's
love, passion. It's
yeah,
it's a it's aggressive.
I didn't see it as aggressive. I
Oh, I
saw it
did.
as
I was like,
aloof. Oh, I saw it as like aloof and like Like, I don't think she was really all there. Like, that's kind of like how I took it. Because even when she's like popping the pills, she's just kind of like, "Mm, mm,
I kinda took
mm."
that as she pops the pills, but she's not really she's kinda, like, going like that every once in a while, but her gaze always goes right back to where Hurley would have been, and she has this kinda, like, face where, like, her eyebrows and such are like this, and so she
Oh, I
might be a little.
remember because she also like flipped him off and said, "I'm gonna fucking kill you, you son of a bitch." I do remember that.
Yeah, and then, they tackle her because she had a knife. It was really I was like, "Holy shit, how'd she get a knife?" No, uh,
It's like, how does Harley not remember her? Like,
yeah, so but I do think that there's something unhealthy there. So I think that this in the same way that I can't wait to see if we have these moments where we figure out how some of these people are related. I strongly believe Locke's father is the person who conned Sawyer's parents,
yeah,
right? Will Sawyer take that out on Locke? We don't know.
yeah,
So there's that. We have already seen that, well, I mean, they're both dead, so this isn't a big deal. That Boone and Shannon
you're like, fuck them, they're dead
they're dead, so
anyway.
Jack wins. No,
Yeah,
Jack was responsible for not saving, um,
yeah,
Shannon's father, and it's just like there's these things that, clearly people are related in some capacity,
yeah,
and I kind of sit back and wonder, like, okay, like, so yeah, it's weird and coincidental that other people are, but there's something about Libby and the way that from the moment she saw him has been like, I'm going to just really relate to you and all that stuff that I think could be that. Now, I don't want to believe that. I just that's
yeah,
the theory that nags at me. I want to believe because I think this is such a beautiful potential relationship here. And something that was so completely heartbreaking for me is that you have this moment where when he's potentially about to jump off a cliff because he thinks that's the way to wake up. Um, where he says to her, "Well, this can't be reality because nobody this beautiful like you would be interested in me."
yeah.
And that that destroyed me because
Yeah.
I can't tell you
And
how many times
it's
I've had bigger people in my life who I think are just absolutely beautiful human beings inside.
yeah.
I'm literally gonna cry right now.
Like, the way he delivers that line is so good.
It's so good. It's so heartbreaking.
Oh, Jorge
I
Garcia, we love you.
I love you, Jorge. No, like honestly, like just the way he delivers that line, I think it's like it wasn't just for him in that moment. That was a line to like reach everybody at home who feels that
Oh,
way.
yeah.
Like who
Oh,
feels I'm
yeah.
literally crying. Like this is ah!
Hot mess moment.
This moment. No, but like I have had so many times where I was like, oh, if I lose 20 pounds, then I can start putting myself out there to date. Right.
Yeah,
I know so many people who are bigger, who have struggled their whole life, who have always been big, like they were a big
yeah.
baby and literally have never been able to fit into quote unquote what society says is a normal size. Oh my God, I'm literally the fucking ass crier in the world. But
Not
and I
lies,
don't
lies.
deserve love. No, just kidding. But I honestly I feel that so badly where people think like, oh, people only like me or are getting to me because it's a joke or because it's not real or something like that guard is up so high that they can't see the self-worth and beauty that they really do have, right?
Yeah,
And that just like in one line utterly destroyed me. Like it was just
yeah.
so good. And I love Libby's response to that too. Because the whole time I was sitting there like if I were there with Hurley, what would I be saying to try to get him to realize that like
Yeah.
no, we're real. Like you're not, it's and I think I would have said something along the lines of like similar to what she said where, she was saying like what are the things that you are consistently feeling left out about and then you found out about them afterwards? How would that be a manifestation of your thoughts? if everybody else is running around and knowing it, right? So
Yeah.
there's somebody in the hat, or there's somebody in the hatch that they've kept. Like, you didn't create that. Other people would have and have been telling you what's going on. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
bits of information that you definitely could not have manifested that other people are going through. So when she said, "Were you in the tail section of the island of the plane or whatever?" Like,
That's just
did
like, "Did
you
you have
have
to
to go
bury that
through
man?"
things?
Yeah.
Like, so
I
don't
like
you
it.
dare tell me that my experiences aren't real, because they sit with me all the time. And I like that she did
Yeah.
that approach rather than going super sweet, because you in that moment he needed a like
A
a
reality
slap
check.
of reality. That's such a weird word to say with when he's struggling with what is reality, but it's
Yeah.
so
No,
true.
fuck him. Slap him. Slap him with the
Slap
reality.
him.
No, I think it's really cute, and I'm really hoping that the Libby and Hurley relationship continues. And I hope it's not for malicious purposes, because I think like that would be pretty shitty.
Yeah.
But you never know with Lost. You never
Yeah,
know.
and I really hope too that if it isn't a malicious thing, or I think that I would be hopeful that there would be a way for her to express like, "Hey, I've been holding out on you on this as well. Like, the reason why I so connect and understand about what you're going through is because we kind of know each other. You've already said this before. I just wasn't at a place where I could talk about it, and now I am."
Yeah.
You know, so I'm hoping that that's what happens with this. But as we've seen, it takes something real special for that kind of shit to come up. So the fact that, this was the episode where, almost 2 full seasons in, we're finally getting some context for Hurley here. I have a feeling it's going to be like another 2 seasons before we even hear anything on this with Libby.
You never know. Let's talk about Henry Gale, where we finally learn
Yeah.
who Henry Gale. Well, we don't know who he is, but we know who he's associated with. And
Yeah. So
that's
he's
interesting.
clearly with the Dharma Initiative, right? Like that's what's going on
Get
here.
out of here.
No, I'm
No.
being serious.
No. He's referring to the others.
No way! I totally felt like he was saying, "You don't know how he'll be." And they're like, "Yeah, the guy with the beard." And he went, "Him? He's nothing."
Yeah,
That's
he's talking
why
about the others. He's talking about like he is an other, and he's like warning them like you have no idea what he's gonna do when he finds out everything that's happened here. And they're all like, the guy in the beard, he's like, "No, do you think he's nobody?" Like he's referring to like there is some like clearly there's a leader of the others that they need
see,
to be scared
I
of.
I literally took this because my theory has been that the
Yeah.
others are in somehow like employed or something, or work
I mean,
with the Dharma
maybe,
Initiative.
but that has not been
But
revealed if that is a
no, it
truth.
hasn't been revealed. But the way
Yeah.
that this fit with my theory was that, oh, this confirms for me almost that the others are with the
No.
Dharma Initiative, but they're kind of like the pawns, to a certain extent, on the ground, in
Yeah.
that the Dharma Initiative is like really powerful. So that changes a lot, because I think that if they're clearly a more powerful other situation, then maybe the Dharma Initiative
But then
suffered because of the others?
I mean, we don't know, because I think that's like all up to like theory crafting of like how
Yeah.
the Dharma Initiative loops into the others, or if they're the same thing, or if
Mhm.
they're like enemies, are they friends, are they even on like are they aware of each other?
Right.
Like we don't know, but like not Henry Gale, who is inside of this armory, is caught lying again. So he
Mhm.
like lies again about Henry Gale and what happened to Henry Gale. And at this point, like no one should be believing anything this man says. Like
Correct.
he has been caught lying twice within the span of 24 hours. And it's not like tiny little lies. It's like big ass fucking
Tell
lies.
me lies, tell me sweet little lies, like your name.
Yeah. Like it's really weird to me that this crew continues to ask him questions and looking for answers, expecting those answers to be truthful, when this man has not once told you the truth from what we have seen.
Correct. To and it's not just like, we also need to point out the fact that he even lied to Locke during lockdown about what happened,
Yeah.
right?
And that could
And
even be a lie. We
and
don't
that
even
could
know.
be a lie. That's what I
He
mean
may
is,
have
like,
put the numbers in.
he could be lying. He's either lying in the past or the present at this point. He either lied
Yeah.
when the lockdown happened, or he's lying now, right? And he'd been
Yeah.
telling the truth before. So, but he did know about the symbols
Yeah, he knew about the
and all
hieroglyphics.
this stuff, which Locke knew.
Yeah.
So if that tells me that he lied in the past, which I
Yeah.
am fully prepared for Lost to go, you fucking idiot, you fell for it. So I can't. I'm fully prepared.
I love that that's the voice of the lost writers.
Yeah. So I'm fully prepared for that.
Yeah.
But I also think I keep going back to what Rousseau said. He's going to lie for a long time. So that makes me wonder, this can't be the first other that she has held. And we knew that with like that torture chamber, right? That like
Yeah.
that was going to be the
Like, she's
case.
definitely tortured others before or
Yeah.
something. Like,
Yeah.
no one just builds a torture chamber because they want to. Like,
Christian Grey would like highly disagree with
but
that.
he wants to. Like, that's the
That's what I'm
thing.
saying. You said like nobody would do that if they didn't want to. Wait.
Yeah, so he wanted to. So that's what I'm saying. Beth, come on now.
I saw a man jerk off on the train. My whole reality is fucked up.
Everything is destroyed. Everything's gone.
Okay.
Okay, so your theory. Okay, first off, I need to know your theory. Do you think not Henry Gale, is actually an other? Or do you think he just knows of the others and is trying to come up with some sort of story? Like, because I mean, he's lying and lying and lying and lying. Is this a truthful tale that he's weaving right
So
now?
here's the thing. His actions to me speak louder than his words.
Yes.
He had that whole story about he could have been getting Anna Lucia ambushed, right? That
Yeah.
didn't happen.
Yep.
So if he was truly with the others and he would have known that this would have been an area that they would have been staking out,
Yeah.
there's something there with the loyalty that is not there for me. Also, why was he by himself? I questioned that last week. I questioned it again when they
Yep.
were talking about it. Like, you're telling me you just happened to get caught in a trap when you know that's Rousseau's territory. There's no way that these people don't know where Rousseau is, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So did you want to be captured? I think that was a legitimate question. His other action, he helps Lockout, genuinely cares, and I think I still wonder. I think he's a scientist. Like and this is just Beth typecasting, and I know this, but it's just there's something about the
Yeah.
way that he's working that doesn't seem very other-esque like we've had with the other others
Yeah.
that we've seen. They're more like action, we'll kill you if we need to. We're doing this. Keep living. Nope,
Yeah.
we're coming back. We're stealing another person. We're doing these things. We're setting boundaries, that kind of thing. This is different, and it's also
Yeah.
different from the two spies that we had earlier, Ethan and whatever the guy in the tail section. I always forget his name.
Honestly, forget him. A good
Yeah,
win.
good win,
Yeah. Yeah,
bad
fuck him.
win. Yeah.
Naughty
So,
win.
oh, I hated that myself. I really,
Hated it too.
I hated that. No. So I really think that there's something just inherently different about him, which makes me think that he is not like, I think the others are like a baseline, like a militant pawn, like we're giving you orders and you carry it
Yeah.
out kind of thing. And that's why I really felt like the Dharma
Which
initiative
they could be.
was
Yeah,
like the higher group. And because
and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that was definitely not confirmed. Like,
no, it's not confirmed. It's my
yeah.
theory, which means it's confirmed.
Yeah.
But my theory is the Dharma initiative, but I think there's got to be some kind of like higher power, right? Now, there's also a few other things that is really interesting that we haven't seen the smoke monster thing in a while.
Yeah, it hasn't shown up in a while.
Which I think it was Rousseau. Somebody called that a security system.
Yes.
The others have never used that as a security system. They just use themselves. They have guns,
Yeah,
they
and
know
they're
the
silent.
island, they're
They're good at
silent,
tracking.
like, they don't need that. So there has to be something that's a higher power or something that and now we're gonna go back to my theory from last week. It's whatever's in that center part of the island to keep people out of the center
Oh, the
part,
question mark?
the question mark area. I think that has gotta be wherever these lead people are.
Okay, alright.
I'm
Yeah,
also still every once in a while this nags at me, which is why the fuck was a pirate ship
that's
in the middle of
true.
the fucking thing? And I
Yeah.
like I just I don't
How
know,
did the
but
Black Rock get
I'm
there?
gonna call it the Dharma Initiative
Okay.
from now as being the higher power
The
up
higher
things.
power.
But I'm also willing to say, oh, because like why this was a recent delivery and there's clearly not scientists at what was absolutely the largest station.
Yeah. Well,
So and we know
wait,
that
are
other
you talking
ones
about
are
the Swan, right?
the Swan.
There
So
was
there's
one, it was Desmond.
but he wasn't really he like crashed there. It's not like he was like
Yeah,
employed there. You know, like they
yeah.
forcibly employed him there. But my point is like they when they ran had that reel, they talked about all these scientists that were going to be working at
Yep,
these different stations. We've now seen 3 of the stations. There's not a single fucking one working there.
it's true.
Potentially there was one at the health station that's a part of the others. I will put that out there.
But, like,
Potentially.
to feed into that theory, though, it does bring into question, if that's the case, like, say all these stations are abandoned, why is the Dharma Initiative still sending food and goods to the
Correct.
island?
And that's why I was like, I think it's to the others or to whatever their like boots on the ground initiative is, right?
Yeah.
I think the polar bears and all this stuff are like scientific experience. It's like Jurassic Park in a way. You had all these people who were like, we always thought, could we do it? And we never thought, should we do it? Like it's like that kind of situation with all these different like
Silly.
like all these different scientists. That's the theory.
Alright. So, to wrap up, who is your MVP and LVP for this episode?
I'm gonna give MVP to Hurley.
Okay, yeah,
I he went through a lot and he overcame and he did it with help and he was afraid to put himself out there, but he was also like overcame that. And I think oftentimes the times that we're most afraid to ask for help are the times that we show the most bravery. And I in doing so. And it's not a
yeah.
weakness. And so I absolutely give him MVP. LVP. I don't know. I really like how Locke talked to not Henry Gale, and was really trying to champion him. We didn't really oh, I'm giving LVP to Sawyer. Cause fuck you for the
Oh,
gaslighting of Hurley.
yeah.
Of being like, I didn't do anything to him. You fucking called him crazy after he admitted that he needed medications for
Yeah, and then
delusions.
proceeded to, like, constantly give him nicknames, which clearly is not, like, making Hurley feel well about himself.
Yeah, like clearly he's saying, "Do you have any medication that might be something I could look for?" I also want to point out that I think the delusions, if this is a medication he's used to taking all the time, the delusions could be like, "Hey, you haven't been taking your medication for like 50 days or whatever it is." And we
Yeah.
literally just talked about this like last week of how many days they've been there.
Oh, okay, I will look it up. It
Yeah.
is, as of this episode, 62 days they've been on
I
this
wish they
island.
would do a counter in the show of being like how many days they're on the
It's hard
island.
to do that, though, because, like, for some episodes, they take place over multiple days, and it can, like, break immersion when it's like, "Oh, it's now day 63," and it's like, "Oh, we're trying to focus on, like, Russo kidnapping a baby," and, like,
Well, I mean, like, on the lost screen where they go, they could say, like,
I
days,
love that
blah,
that's
de blah.
I love that that's the intro sound to you. It's like a transformer.
Wah,
It's just lost.
wah. It
It
would have been
becomes
worse
lost.
if I went, "Wah, wah, wah."
Okay. So The next 2 episodes that we'll be covering. Are you ready? The first one is called SOS.
Ah,
Who do you think it is a centric episode of?
SOS.
We're getting so close to the end of season 2.
Not Henry Gale?
It is a Rose and Bernard episode. I've been waiting. This is a Rose and Bernard centric
If
episode.
either one of them fucking die, and I don't care if it's next episode or whatever, I'm done watching the show. I'm done watching the show. Actually, I don't care if Bernard dies. I care if Rose dies.
Yes, yes.
Now
And
that Bernard
then
is reunited with Rose, I care. Okay.
and then there is an episode called Lost Reckoning, which we will not be watching. It's just a recap of everything that's happened in season 2 with
Fair enough.
I think a few additional it's not anything
We're
that
not gonna
impacts the
cover it.
story.
Yeah.
And then the next episode is called 2 for the Road. Who do you think that's a centric episode of?
Jack?
Anna Lucia.
Ooh,
She
okay.
gets her second centric episode for season 2.
Damn.
Yeah.
I figured they'd
Ooh.
go back to a character like in the Hatch Henry Gale area soon, because they haven't in a couple episodes. But I mean,
Yeah.
no, that's not true. They did Locke last week, you dumb bitch, Beth.
Yeah, they did.
Fuck up
You're
with your
stupid.
non-lost no one ass.
I am so excited for these 2 episodes. I think going forward, the rest of season 2 is fires on all cylinders of figuring out what the fuck is going to happen. What are they going to do with Henry Gale? We also have not heard from what is up with Walt. We have not heard anything since
Michael.
Walt's kidnapping or Michael. That's right. True. We haven't heard of Michael. We also have not heard of what could potentially be happening with the button with what's being pushed. We've heard a little bit obviously of did Henry Gill push this button, did Henry Gill not push this button? We now have this question mark in the middle of the island. What could that potentially be? This uneasy alliance between the others and the survivors, is that a real thing that they're actually going to commit to, or they're more nefarious things? There's so much to cover before we get to the finale of season 2, and I can't wait. And then the season 3 premiere. I'm gonna keep hyping this motherfucker up. It's so good. It's so
wait.
fucking
I
the
can't
first 15 minutes, you will shit your pants, bitch. You will shit your pants.
I think we should record me watching the
Yes.
first 15 minutes.
Yes. We should absolutely.
And we can put it up on the YouTube page.
Yes, I am down.
We'll
just
make
it
my
a short.
just my reactions or something like a compilation. I'll try to make it juicy. Because half the time I feel like I don't react when I'm watching, but internally I'm like, ah!
Yeah.
Like you guys were complaining, Beth didn't react when Shannon got shot. And inside I'm like, yeah.
You're like, fuck it. All right. So
she died in this season, didn't she?
She did. It feels like forever ago.
Feels like it was in the first season.
Yeah, it's crazy when you really do one episode a week, how long it really fucking feels. That's how we felt when the show was coming out every single week. But now they're going to be covering 2 episodes.
You had a community with which to go and try to talk about this shit.
That was worse. That was way worse. You want to tell me why?
I can't even go online to go, I wonder what people think about this, because the people know, and it's just all over the place. So I have you and the bullshit that I'm just talking in the middle. It's like, no, I don't know.
Well, just think, once you're finished with the show, you can go back and look at everything.
It's true.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. We will be back here on Thursday covering SOS and 2 for the Road, episodes 19 and 20 of season 2. And then we'll be back on Tuesday with another the 2 episodes with Kirsten. Kirsten. Why do I keep saying Kirsten? No, Kirsten.
I feel like it's the fate of anybody named Kristen, anything like that you're always going to get people who don't.
I always get Dylan. People don't know how to say my name. Oh, girl. I get Dylan more than I get Dylan anywhere. I was like, "Have you ever met anyone named Dylan? Have
These
you
people
ever
vote.
met a human
These
being named
people
Dylan?"
vote. These people vote, Dylan. People
I
who
had
look at your
someone,
name and think Dylan
I'm about to
vote.
go off. I had someone, and I'm not even kidding you. I went to go order, I think it was like at a Subway or something like that. And or no, it had to have been a Starbucks, somewhere where you say your name.
Mhm.
And I had ordered my drink and they're like, what's the name on the order? Which I felt was really weird because I was going through a drive-through. So I gave them my name. They must have been like super busy. And the girl left the mic on after I said the name and she said, "That's such an exotic name, Dylan." And I'm like, "What?" And so I pull up and she's like, "Who was this order for again?" I say, "Dylan." She's like, "Dylan?" I'm like, "Yeah, Dylan." She's like, "Oh, Dylan." And she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She gave me my fucking drink. This is like back in college, and it has stuck with me since then. Where I'm like, first off, my name's not exotic. Second of all,
It's
I'm like, what?
uh, well, that's
I'm
like my last name is Dixon, Dixon,
yeah.
and I will always get the people who, like, whenever I call people up, they'll always think it's Dickson, which I understand, but I'm like, "No, it's Dixon." I went to the same pharmacy that my parents went to, obviously, from when I was growing up, from ages 7 until, like, 3 years ago. And I had them I was like they were like, "What's your name?" I was like, Elizabeth Dixon." Like, "I went to high school with you." Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's that kinda level. And they were
Yeah.
like, "Can you spell your last name for me?" I was like, Dixon. They're like, Mary?" And I'm like, "Nope, that's my mom's name." They're like, "We only have Mary and John in here." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, those are my parents. I've been getting my medicine here a lot." And then she's like, "Would it be spelled any other way?" And I was like, "Which one? Elizabeth? No. Dixon? No. Like, what do you want?" So she finally found it using my birth date in the system for like 20 years, 20 plus years. They had my name spelled Dixckson.
What?
And I was like, "What?" I went back and looked at medication and it literally said Dixckson, and I never noticed because I like that just tells you how horrible of a person I am when it comes to I just go, "Ah!" Just
You're
pop it in
like, "Put it
my
in
mouth.
my mouth."
Ah.
Yeah.
I literally was like,
Oh my
"Holy
god.
shit. That's so wrong. That's so wrong. That's disgusting."
That's ridiculous. I can't.
Oh.
No, that's funny. Well, hot mess moments, everyone. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.